President Donald Trump is doing God's work. So said Steve Witkoff on his return from abroad, where he's trying to end multiple wars on President Donald Trump's behalf.
The president has done God's work on 7 separate conflicts here. And why? Because at heart, he's a humanitarian. At heart, he wants to see the killing end. And I can tell you this, I just hope that when it comes time to assess from a Nobel Peace Prize standpoint, the type of work that President Trump has done, that it's widely acknowledged exactly what has happened out there on the world stage.
It has been acknowledged by a lot of countries around the world, a lot of world leaders who've been affected positively by President Donald Trump. And it's not just world leaders around the globe, it's people right here at home. And Doug Burgum, Secretary of the Interior, reiterated that yesterday, that Donald Trump doesn't care what country you're in. He doesn't want you to die. He's out there trying to save lives, just as God has commanded.
President Trump, whether it's a war abroad or whether it's crime at home, he wants to stop the killing. He wants to stop the violence. I mean, by nature, he is someone that wants people to have peace and to get along. And he's certainly demonstrating that with his actions around the globe. And now he wants to bring that home. If this is the greatest country in the world, I think every citizen, regardless of party, should have an expectation that you can live in a city, large or small, Republican or Democrat, and be safe in that community. That's the vision that he has and that we're all trying to help him with.
And that is something that Donald Trump has inspired not just Americans to do and people all over the world to do, but also his cabinet, the greatest cabinet ever. And yesterday, Donald Trump and his cabinet held a meeting that was fully televised and lasted 3 hours and 15 minutes. A 3 hour and 15 minute fully televised cabinet meeting. That's what President Donald Trump's presidency is all about, because he says we have transparency. We're an open government.
I want to just thank, this is the greatest, this has never been done before. First of all, a cabinet meeting was sacred. You'd never let the fake news media in. But the fake news media isn't all fake. It's, a lot of it is, but it's not all. I think it's a great thing. I think maybe it's going to be done in the future. I hope it's going to be done. But you really get the word out. I mean, we had, each one of these people spoke. I think each one, if I thought one of them did badly, I would call that person out. I would say, Christy, what the heck are you doing? Please don't say that. No, seriously, you have a very talented group of people. They get along, they work along together. And there's something really nice about just, the openness of what we're doing. It's government. It's an open government.
Open government. Yeah. Open government doing God's work in a cabinet meeting that lasted 3 hours and 15 minutes and was fully televised. Something you've never seen ever before. And Donald Trump hopes to make something, he hopes to make it a precedent. And he glanced at J.D. Vance when he said that, because I think he knows what's coming. But not only was it the greatest president ever, not only was it the greatest president and the greatest administration and the greatest cabinet ever, but they've had some of the greatest accomplishments. They went around the table basically all afternoon saying, what did you do that was great? Okay, great. What are you doing that's great? How did you do something? How did you make America great again today? And President Donald Trump kicked it off by saying, look, the jobs that we're creating in the United States of America are incredible.
Since the inauguration, we've created over 500,000 new private jobs. And if you notice, when the numbers come out, government jobs are going down and private jobs are coming up. And that's what really fuels the country. It's easy to hire people and pay them for doing something that maybe is not very productive. But government jobs are down, actually substantially down, and private jobs are way up. And these are the jobs that make money, create a better life. Meanwhile, we've reduced the number of federal bureaucrats by 84,000. So we got rid of 84,000. And I think the job numbers, you're going to see the new job numbers are going to be through the roof because of all of the different businesses that are moving into our country. And not just production businesses, autos and AI, but any business you can think of.
President Donald Trump is bringing new private sector businesses into the United States of America. He's creating 250 million private sector jobs. And as an added bonus, he's reducing the size of government by 84,000 bureaucrats. That is the shift in the right direction. That is how you boost the economy. That's how you get more income tax growth. That's how you make the country rich again. And that's how you make sure that other countries are investing in the United States of America. And it's not just Americans investing in their own government. Small government, big economy. That's Donald Trump's motto. That's the motto of the small government, states' rights crew who's been fighting for that exact same issue since this country's been founded. And now we have a president who realizes that the smaller the government, the better everybody is. Not just private sector people, but also government workers as well. It's really fascinating to see how this finally is in play, how it's in practice, and how it's succeeding. Amazingly well. Not only that, but Donald Trump is saying, look, we've got big plans for the District of Columbia. In fact, we are going to continue to make sure that people here in the DC area are safe by asking for the death penalty if you murder somebody in the nation's capital.
Anybody murders something in the capital punishment, capital punishment. If somebody kills somebody in the Capitol, Washington, D.C., we're going to be seeking the death penalty. And that's a very strong preventative. And everybody that's heard it agrees with it. I don't know if we're ready for it in this country, but where you have it, it is, we have no choice. So in D.C. and Washington, states are going to have to make their own decision. But if somebody kills somebody, like you could have been killed, very lucky you didn't get killed, it's the death penalty, okay?
Yeah, capital punishment. If you commit a crime, if you commit murder in the Capitol, you get capital punishment. That's Donald Trump's preventative measure. That's his deterrence to make sure that crime continues to go down and stays down in Washington, D.C. And of course, he's still looking to take his ideas and take his military involvement and his federalization of the government and his crime fighting acumen to other cities that, yes, they happen to be run by Democrats, but that's not a coincidence.
I want to make this like friendly, but the places we're talking about happen to be virtually all Democrat run. Now, take a look at your 25 places that are most troubled. Everyone, except maybe one, and it's way back in number 24 or 25, but essentially 25 out of 25 are run by Democrats, and cashless bail was a disaster. When they did that, and I believe it was instituted first in New York, but when they did cashless bail, that was a tragedy for this, because that's when it really started getting bad. When somebody kills somebody, you don't say you can come out, you don't have to put up anything. You put that person in jail and you find out whether or not it's true, but you don't give cashless bail with a promise to come back in a couple of months, we'll start talking to you, because they go out and they kill other people, and you can't do that. The cashless bail has been, it's just a woke thing. It's got to stop. You see that, Christy, better than anybody. It's got to stop. It causes unbelievable, and we're doing that. We're stopping it in D.C.
And that is something that Donald Trump says, not only are we going to stop it in D.C., but we need to work with all of these other Democrat-run cities. And we don't know why the Democrats are so into crime, but they're so into crime. We've got to make sure that this is an inspiration for the rest of the country. And he spoke to Kristi Noem and said, look, let's go around the table. Kristi, what do you got? And she talked not only about the crime efforts and working with Pete Hegseth and the military and how they have this great synergy. That's the best thing about this cabinet. Everybody works with everybody else. Homeland Security works with the military or the Department of Defense, and the Department of Defense works with the Department of the Interior, and the Department of the Interior is over there working with Energy and Commerce, and they're all working with Agriculture and Health and Human Services. It's not individuals working in their own departments. It's a group of people working together as a federal government to make sure that everybody can do everything that they need. And you oftentimes, in fact, more often than not, you'll see multiple cabinet secretaries at some kind of event, multiple cabinet secretaries making some kind of big announcement to benefit Americans. It's not just one person in front of the podium, it's all of them, because they're all doing what President Donald Trump has asked them to do, and that is make America great again. And Kristi Noem said, yeah, not only in D.C., but the border, forget about it. The border is insane.
Well, Mr. President, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to work for you. And you committed when you ran for president to make America safe again. And today, the average family and individual that lives in this country is safer than they've been in years because of what you've done. We've got 3 months in a row now with 0 illegal aliens coming into this country. And I want to thank Pete and the Department of Defense for all of their help. They're down at the border with us still, helping us keep that border secure and make sure we know who's coming into this country. You've arrested and brought to justice hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens, criminals that have perpetuated violence against American people. Sir, you've had 1.6 million people voluntarily go home to their home countries that were here in this country illegally. Because
that is peace through strength, by the way. We talk about peace through strength from a military standpoint, but look at what Donald Trump did. He showed the people who were here illegally a strong stance on immigration. We're going to solidify the border. We're going to increase our border patrol. We're going to have Tom Homan run around with ICE agents and deport everybody. You're going to get your cojones are going to be put on aeroplanes and sent back to wherever you came. Or you could just leave on your own, and rather than risk arrest, rather than risk deportation, rather than risk the possibility of never being able to come to this country legally ever again, a lot of folks, over 1 million of them, said, adios, muchachos, and they headed home on their own accord. And that is something that Donald Trump was able to do. It was something he was able to inspire, because when he said, we're going to come find you, we're going to come get you, we're going to send you home against your will, and you'll never be able to come back, people believed him. Why? Because he does it. And that is something that has been, I mean, think about the amount of savings. Think about how much time and money and effort and I mean, that is saved. All those people who self-deported, over 1 million of them, that's less personnel, less law enforcement, fewer ICE agents that you need, less jet fuel you need to fly those people back to El Salvador and Venezuela and wherever else they came from. They're just going on their own. It saves money, it saves time, and it makes America great again. Scott Bessent talked about how economic security is also national security, and he's right about that. And Donald Trump has been able to fortify our national security from an economic standpoint.
Sir, as we've said very often, economic security is national security, and our country has never been so secure thanks to you. You have brought us back from the edge. You have the overwhelming mandate from the American people. You're restoring confidence in government. A topic that is on the front of everyone's mind, the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve's independence comes from a political arrangement between itself and the American public. Having the public's trust is the only thing that gives it credibility, and you, sir, are restoring trust to government. You are weeding out the waste, fraud, and abuse, and the old ways of doing things are not good enough. We are seeing a blue-collar boom. In the first 7 months of your administration, real blue-collar wages have taken off. And the only other time that they've done this in the past 70 years was in your previous term. Your efforts on tax, trade, and deregulation have boosted paychecks for American workers while slowing the pace of inflation and lowering the cost of energy. Inflation has plummeted to just 1.9% since you took office, and the economy rebounded with real GDP surging 3% last quarter.
There is another part here at the end I want to skip to because it's very important, and it's regarding tariffs and the deficit.
So on everything, as you said, last Friday, on a summer Friday, had to admit that they believe over the next 10 years, the budget deficit will be $4 trillion lower than they had previously scored. $4 trillion, $3.3 trillion of tariff income, $700 billion of lower interest cost, and I would expect that number could go up from here. So, Mr. President, your return to the White House marked the return of the American worker. Thank you for reclaiming Labor Day for the American people. You're growing the economy for everyone, especially the middle and lower income households who suffered disproportionately under the last administration, and it's an honor to do this under your leadership.
And speaking of Labor Day, it was the Labor Day cabinet meeting because Labor Day is this weekend, and Marco Rubio had some jokes to throw into the mix.
Mr. President, first of all, everyone's made this comment already and needs to be echoed again. You were elected as the president of working Americans, and that's why this Labor Day is so meaningful. For me personally, this is the most meaningful Labor Day of my life as someone with 4 jobs. And so, it's true. And, but on the point of, you made it very clear from the outset, even in foreign policy, everything we did has to be pro-American. It has to make America stronger or safer or more prosperous. And there's just a few things I want to touch to because it involves your team under your leadership making it happen. The first is, for the first time in the modern era, we are truly on offense against organized cartels that are pumping poison, killer poison, into our cities. And that's a team effort. It's Christie's team, it's Pete's team, it's Pam's team, and obviously it's under your leadership. And by the way, we're getting incredible economic international cooperation. Countries just in the last week, Ecuador, Paraguay, Guyana, Trinidad, today Argentina, all joining us or trying to be helpful in advancing this.
And that is, of course, because they know that President Donald Trump has threatened to send in the military. And they know that if Donald Trump's going to send the military into Washington, D.C. to clean up graffiti and homelessness, he'll definitely send the military into Venezuela and Mexico and El Salvador and Colombia and wherever else these cartels are, because he's going to do whatever it takes to protect American lives and keep people safe. It's peace through strength once again. And which brings us back to Steve Witkoff. Steve Witkoff, who talked about all of the benefit, Donald Trump doing God's work, not just at home, but abroad. Donald Trump doing God's work in Russia and Ukraine. And Donald Trump, with the help of God, getting farther than anybody has ever gotten before.
No one has done more, and I'm talking about in the last 8 months, than this president in narrowing the issues between these two countries and bringing the sides close to a deal. The Russians have put a peace proposal on the table. It involves Donetsk. It may not be something that the Ukrainians can take, but no one's ever made that kind of progress here, and it's because of his force of personality and his motivation to end the conflict, end the death, that we're at this place where we think the end is in sight.
Yeah, and that is something that is truly monumental. Something Donald Trump has been promising and working diligently toward is peace in Ukraine and peace in the Middle East. Speaking of the Middle East, Brett Baer from Fox News asked Steve Witkoff, "Hey, what's the holdup?"
Who is holding up the end of the war more, Israel or Hamas? Hamas, 100%.
Yes, there's been a deal on the table for the last 6 or 7 weeks that would have released 10 of the hostages out of the 20 who we think are alive. And it was Hamas who slow played that process, and it is Hamas now who is saying we accept that deal. And I think in large part they're saying that and changing their mind because the Israelis are putting some very intense pressure on them.
Yeah, look at that. It's Hamas's fault. It's Hamas's. I mean, we know. I mean, that's a real no-brainer of a question, Brett. But we all know it was Hamas's fault, and we all know that Donald Trump is the one that is going to put his hand down and make sure that at the end of the day, Gaza is safe. The Gazans are safe. That war comes to an end, and there's no more killing. Because, again, he's doing God's work. There's so much more to cover from this cabinet meeting. Also, President Donald Trump may have saved Cracker Barrel from itself. A lot of other headlines, a lot of other things happening. And that's why we have our second daily podcast, which is Mark Kaye Saves the Republican. If you have not yet downloaded it, the best way to find it is to go to markkaye.com, MarkKaye.com. Click the big red button that says, I want the podcast. Download, listen, subscribe, and enjoy.